Hello, we are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Stacy Nell. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission. The sirens are still going. I don't know if you can hear them, but they're still going. I want to welcome you everyone to our Lunch and Learn today for the 20th of March. I am thrilled to be joined by Dr. Reverend Bobby Love Sr. How are you today?
Hey, I am doing fine, and thank you so much for inviting me to be on.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to have you on here. And it may be, I don't want to bury the lead. You used to be on this commission at one point,
Yes,
yes?
I did. Yes, I did, and I was very fortunate and blessed to serve several governors in that position and to be chairman amongst my peers representing the third district. So it was my distinct honor to serve the Kansas community.
There you go. So I'm bringing you a little callback, bringing you back to the
Yeah,
commission for
yeah.
for
Well,
for
thank
half an
you, thank
hour.
you, thank you.
Okay, well, we're here to talk about community activism and community involvement. But I want
Sure.
to, in case people are not familiar with you, want to read a little biography. Dr. Bobby Love Sr. is a native son of liberal Kansas. He has provided 33 years of distinguished pastoral leadership at the historic Second Baptist Church of Olathe. He's a graduate of Seward County Community College, Emporia State University, Western Baptist Bible College, and completed his graduate studies at Andersonville Theological Seminary. He is the co-founder of Step with Love Ministries, dedicated to consulting with churches to encourage and support first step families by providing training and strategies that build strong marriages in a Christian counseling and coaching. He has completed 2 terms on the Kansas African American Affairs Commission that the governor appointed, serving as the 3rd Congressional District as the commission's chair. He is presently serving as the General Secretary of the Missionary Baptist State Convention of Kansas and the
Mhm.
chair of the Religious Affairs Committee and the chair for the NAACP conference. That's a sentence to get through. In the
Yeah.
corporate setting, Reverend Love worked in city government as a division manager and executive director of the Olathe Human Relations Commission, focusing on fair housing, civil rights, and diversity. He is founder of the Kansas Faith and Democracy Clergy Table of Color with the Metro Organization on Racial Economic Equity, also known as More Squared.
Absolutely.
Being a man of conviction of causes that he believes in, he was arrested in Washington, D.C. for civil disobedience in support of comprehensive immigration reform. He has successfully advocated for ban the box victories in KC-Mo, KCK, and the Kansas Unified Government, and in Johnson County, Kansas. He is this year's recipient of the Olathe Public Schools Black Excellence Recognition Award for his service in the Olathe community. Reverend Love serves locally as the Olathe Medical Center Community Advisor Council member and is a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. He's married to First Lady Coach Dr. Janice R. Love, best-selling author and CEO of Pearls Perfected Institute. And they are loving parents of 8 adult children.
Absolutely.
I've got 2, and mine aren't adults. Mine are still in the house, and I'm like, 2 kids is enough. So 8.
No, you need 8 like we have. 8 is enough.
No, I,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
obviously you are full of the Lord's grace.
It took a lot of grace, and I am very thankful. We had a lot of help, but through it all, God has blessed us to raise our family, and we're empty nesters now. And funny story. I do have great grandchildren. We've got 2 great granddaughters, and the baby girl has been in the hospital, but the older girl had come over, and her little doll had a hole in the back, so grandpapa had to stitch it up and put
Come
a
on now.
button on it. So
Come on, Grandpapa.
hey,
Working the needle. I love it.
absolutely, absolutely.
Now we could sit here and tell stories of children and grandchildren,
Yes, we could.
and that would be valid.
Yeah,
That is not why I asked you here. So
absolutely.
I do want to swing back. Now, I am most familiar with your work. One, I was aware that you were on the commission, and we've
Yeah.
talked a little bit, but mainly about more squared.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's why between More Squared and the Kansas Faith and Democracy Table, those are
Ah,
the 2 things I really wanted to ask you about.
okay. Okay.
Which came first? Your
Well, actually, Stacy, the work that came forward first was organizing the More Square. Uh, I'm one of the founding member congregations to the organization, which started back in 2004. And I got involved in this, just a thumbnail sketch. Prior to this, years ago, I represented Olathe on an organization called the Metropolitan Human Relations Commission. And this was an organization of the Class 1 cities in the metro area. There was 8 of them, and each mayor appointed a representative. So I represented Olathe. A good colleague friend of mine, the Reverend Dr. Bob Hill, represented KC Mo, and he was appointed by then Mayor Emanuel Cleaver. And he and I met, and we did some great work in the area. So when the initial stages of organizing these congregations to be a part of More Squared, I got involved because of my working relationship with Dr. Bob Hill, and of course others in the metro area as well. So that's how that started.
Okay.
Now, the faith and democracy piece of this is newly formed, and it is in its embryonic stages.
Okay.
We just started it, and so that's kind of a thumbnail sketch.
Okay. So for those who out in the audience who may not be familiar with the work of More Squared, can you give us sort of a general overview of what type of work More Squared does?
Sure. First of all, More Squared is probably one of the most diverse organizations dealing with race, dealing with faith, and in the metro area. And we basically advocate to change policy. Okay. So just to give you an idea, we have a criminal justice a task force, educational task force, a healthcare task force. We also have an immigration task force as well. So those are some of the things that we do. Case in point, some jurisdictions have what they call lifetime ban on food stamps. Well, of course, we know that would adversely affect largely the populations of color. So that would be a issue where we would come in and change those policies, advocate to change those policies. So that's kind of what we do. There's a whole lot of other things. Give you another one, for example, a lot of the tourist dollars that come to the metro area when you have big conventions and so forth, we had found that there were very few, if any, minority companies who got the opportunity, caterers that got the opportunity to bid on that. So actually, that's an economic impact. So we changed that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it's interesting to me because once I knew More Squared existed, then I started hearing about it.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Absolutely.
It's like when you buy a red car, then suddenly every car you see,
every car you see, right.
Yeah. So once I became aware of More Squared, I started to hear more about some of the things that they're popping up. Now, I did mention you just had your meeting in February 23rd. I watched it, the
public meeting,
community meeting, which was very interesting because you talked about a whole lot of different issues, everything from clean slate to Medicaid expansion. So do you want to talk about your involvement? Like, so how does More Square get involved in like clean slate? Or...
What we do, all of our leaders in More Squared, we, of course, we're big on training. We think that everyone who's a part of More Squared, they are actually powerful leaders. And in that, what we have issues night, we develop issues that are near and dear to the people in the organization. And then we organize around those particular issues. So on this past public meeting that we had, one of the issues on the Missouri side, of course, is the issue concerning local control of the police department. So that's an issue. On the Kansas side, one of our particular issues, of course, is the Medicaid or the KAAAC expansion. So we are organizing around that. Where faith and democracy comes in, we certainly feel that as clergy, more expressly as Black clergy, these things affect our congregants in a more adverse way.
Right.
So I think we need to speak out on that. So we are building, if you will, organizing around that particular issue. So we highlighted those at the public meeting that you talked about. And we were very delighted that Governor Kelly spoke out in support of pushing Medicaid expansion. So we're very delighted to work with her to get that done.
Yeah, Medicaid expansion is one of those things that I'm not quite sure why it hasn't happened here in the state.
Yeah.
We're down to like fewer than 10 states that don't have an expanded Medicaid.
Yeah. Well, I'll call it out for what it is. Sometimes we look at things and it was surely, in my opinion, humble opinion, it was political. But because it was political, a lot of people get hurt. And I think from the faith community, we have to look at this from the lens of what is moral and what is decent. And I think Jesus himself, which I always like to lift up out of the book of Luke, the story of the Good Samaritan. And he poses that story about those who were in position to help, didn't help. But there was one, a no-name person who was a Samaritan that stopped and gave aid. And right now we have elected officials. And I don't care whether you're Democrat, I don't care whether you're Republican, I don't care whether you're independent. We need to do the right thing because people's lives are being impacted by not having that. It's an economic issue, it's a moral issue, and it's a health and safety issue.
Right. And we know that these things, like you mentioned, you made reference to, they impact the Black community.
Absolutely.
Disproportionately, or
Yes.
to a stronger extent. I think I've heard that phrase about if the white community catches cold, the Black community gets the flu.
Exactly.
Right. Well, I know, and we ran into each other at the Medicaid expansion rally last week, which was a fantastic turnout.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it was very inspiring, very encouraging, and I think it's one of those things we have to just keep working on Medicaid expansion. I know it's a priority of the governor. It's a priority of a great many groups.
Yeah, it is. There's here in the state of Kansas, if we're honest about it, there's more people that's in support of this. But because we've allowed politics to come into play, that has paralyzed us. And I think what we can do to change that is stop doing the blame game and just do the right thing. Let's get this done. And we're hopeful that it would happen this session. If not, we will be back for next go around.
Fantastic. Just, get the boxing gloves ready.
Exactly.
So shifting away from Moore Square, and I know you mentioned that Kansas Faith and Democracy was sort of in its infancy.
Yeah.
Is it a statewide organization? Or
it's statewide, and we are in relationship with pulpits across the state of Kansas. As far as my hometown out in Liberal, you've got, and I always say that great city out west. But
your brother's still out there, Ivanhoe, right?
Yes, that's my eldest brother, and he still lives out there. So we have Liberal. You're looking at Wichita, Salina area, Leavenworth, Topeka, Junction City. Of course, KCK. We're looking in the rural part of the state as well. From Coffeyville. We're talking about Humboldt, Fort Scott. And those were areas where we've seen hospitals have closed. And that has had an adverse effect of those local communities.
Right.
You would be surprised. I go and talk to local congregations, and everyone has some heart-wrenching stories to tell. And so we need to do the right thing on that.
Right. And so as you build up Faith and Democracy, what are some of your goals for the future? If it's in the embryonic state now, when you get to the full state, what are some of your aspirations?
Sure. One of the other things that we would be looking at doing as well, outside of the Medicaid expansion, any of the issues that arise that are unique to our congregations. And one of the things that we look forward to doing, one of my colleagues in this, we have also been having critical race discussions. And as you know, that's a hot buzz topic in political circles. Everybody's afraid to speak about racial things, but when you do it in a healthy way, and the Bible says, "In all thy getting, get understanding."
Right.
And I think when we can frame it in a way and not be afraid to see the truth in it, we can all grow from that experience.
So do you find that there's a lot of still within? Well, and I'm asking because this is one I don't know the answer to. So a lot of times, like these interviews, like I'm asking questions that I know the answers to. This is one I don't know the answer. Amongst clergy, is there in the Black church, is there an appetite to get involved in policy discussions? Is there an appetite to be involved in things that are more social justice or awareness?
I think, Stacy, in all fairness to our brothers, it is no different than Dr. King during the civil rights movement.
Right.
When you're at the forefront of doing this, sometimes colleagues can be in the stands. They're cheering you on.
Right.
But what I'm trying to do is to get us out of the stands,
right,
down on the playing field. And that's where the action is. That's where we need to be. And then our congregants need to be able to see that their leaders are on the actual floor. And then that's where the groundswell will come up. So I think as time goes on, and especially in the climate that we have been involved in over the last several years, there's more clergy that is getting that appetite to really get involved with some things. We can no longer do things the way that we used to do.
Right. Yes. And I know, yes, a lot of times in my work from the state level,
sure,
if the question becomes, how do we get to the black population? One of the first things people always say is go to the churches.
Absolutely.
So having an organization like Faith and Democracy to deal with policy issues, because sometimes it's going through the churches, it has nothing to do with policy. So it's there's COVID vaccines available, or there's money coming down from commerce. But if we're talking about social justice issues, it's nice to know that there are churches that are involved in that space.
Right. And the thing about it too, Stacey, when you look at it, what the pandemic did, it really changed the, coming through this pandemic, a lot of our churches have been affected in a way, and we've had to learn how to retool and get messages out. And I think because of that, it allowed us to look at some things a little bit differently than perhaps we had in the past.
How so?
But so it's going to require us to be more aggressive in some areas. We've got to speak out more in some particular areas, and I think you'll see that.
Fantastic. One of the things that I know that More Squared had taken up was your 911 push. Is that still going on?
Absolutely. We've got two phases on that. On the Missouri side, of course, the 911 is dealing with the local control issue. And here on the Kansas side, we call 911, we're doing what we call a 911 health emergency. So what we are looking to do is to get 1,000 persons who will agree to become what we call healthcare ambassadors. And to become a healthcare ambassador, we're asking them to contact 9 individuals. Those 9 individuals then would also reach out and replicate this. So
just talking to 9 people.
Talking and be in relationship with 9 persons, and then do one action. And that one action could be to contact your local legislator. And so we're hoping to effectuate, if you do the math on there, I think that comes out to maybe about 90,000 people. We hope.
Right. So it's not everyone reach one; it's everyone reach 9.
Yeah. And then out of that, the numbers would just replicate. So that's what we will be initiating on that side. And I think the more people who really actually know what the issues are, it's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the good thing. I think behind the scenes in private conversations, those elected officials know that this is the right thing to do. And now that you have the business community speaking out that hey, we need to do this because this is really bad for business, I think that is saying something.
You know, from your lips to the Lord's ears. Let's hope. There's always hope.
Right.
Okay. All right. So you said you were one of the founding members of More Squared?
Yeah, I'm one of the when I say that, founding congregations. We started out with 12 congregations. My church was one of the original ones that came in.
So if there's a congregation that would like to become involved with More Square, because when I watched, for example, I made reference to the Giants Do Fall community member meeting, which is, by the way, on More Square's Facebook page. That's where I
found it.
So if anyone's watching this saying, oh, what's she talking about? If you go to More Square's Facebook page, it was in February, so you may have to scroll a little bit. But it's there in its entirety. So if a congregation wanted to get involved with More Square's work,
all they'd have to do is just actually, you could go to the website, which is more, MORE, the number 2.org. You could go there and scroll through. You can connect there, or you can do our Facebook page. And I'm glad that you mentioned our public meeting again, which was called Giants Do Fall. And what we like about that is the fact that we all face obstacles that are in the way of helping people sometimes. And you as an individual may seem like your voice doesn't count. You may seem like it may appear that it's a daunting task. We'll never get this done, or we'll never get this through. So we're here to tell you that giants do fall. Whatever those obstacles are, it's the little story of David showing up on the scene, and he's wondering what's going on, and they're facing the giant, and he says, I'll take the giant on. Why? Because God was on his side and he was victorious. So what we're saying is that we are a faith-based organization, and you come with whatever stripes that you have. We want to see the right thing that's going to help people change their lives. And what we do is attack, if you will, or dismantle those giant situations and to get things done. So we're not a hold your hand type organization, at all. We got various tools in our toolbox, and our leaders will make it where we change policy.
But a person doesn't have to come with an entire congregation. They can show up.
No, you can come. We've got individual membership now. They can come and be a part of More Squared as an individual member.
Fantastic. All right. I'm trying to check my notes to make sure.
Okay.
There's a list of things I want to talk to you about. Sure. And you touched on most of them: Medicaid expansion, 911, the teaching of history, which the whole critical race theory.
Yeah, you know, and I can't get it. You know, for the life of me now, I'm blessed. My mother still lives. She's 95 years old, and you mean to tell me that her life experience of coming from Desha County in Arkansas, Tiller, Arkansas. You know, our family spent time on, coming up through the plantation situation where there's sharecroppers and everything. So her story to me, the things that she tells me as I'm growing up, that's her lived experience.
Right. Yeah.
And you mean to tell me that that's not of value? And I'm supposed to tell her to shh. You can't say anything about that. The segregated bathrooms, and I saw that. I came up through that. My.
Yeah, because I went to school in Des Moines for a while, and apparently,
Yeah.
even when I was in kindergarten, that was the first year really that Des Moines got desegregated.
Yeah. And I grew up where, even in liberal Kansas, we didn't get new carpet in our house. Well, I say new carpet, but we got when the movie The Help. My mother used to clean domestically the rich white people's homes. When they changed their carpet, we took that old carpet and that became our carpet. But I thank God for the experience, but we don't have to do that. I remember when we got our first green shag carpet, brand new. Oh man, we were so happy, but that's an experience.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me we are not able to talk about the systems that were in place to keep people in a certain place? Now, come on.
I scratch my head on it as
Even
well.
biblically, what Joshua, the second chapter of Joshua, when your children ask, what is the meaning of these stones?
Right.
Tell them. That's a history lesson. Tell them what happened. And so, and I don't get it. And most of the people that kick against this are quote unquote church going,
right,
Bible believing people.
I mean, honestly, that's been my major struggle is that,
Yeah.
Have you read the book Reading While Black?
I have not. That's on my list.
By Esau. Yeah, Esau.
Mm-hmm.
I read that and it gave me great solace, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So Esau McCulley is a Black theologian, and he teaches. Does he teach it? I forget where he teaches. I feel like I should know where he teaches. I did not mean to come on here and talk about Esau McCulley's book, but yes, just this notion of figuring out, staying faithful as a Black person in today's political climate, and then this idea of social justice work, from a faith-based standpoint, because some church traditions do not seem to embrace the idea of social justice. That's why I was so enthralled to hear about the faith and democracy, and that it was specifically dealing with clergy of color. Because I think it does speak to the Black experience.
It does.
The church is such a powerful thing in the Black community, and then to give voice to this, I don't know if need, desire, space to work in with policy and change.
Yeah, I think too, when you look at even through scripture in the New Testament, Jesus himself, he got a little agitated and started turning tables over because he didn't like what he saw, So sometimes we can put business before people. Sometimes we can put my for and no more. And we really have to understand that we are our brother and sister's keeper.
Right.
And if we want to make Kansas to be a livable place, to make Kansas be a more equitable place, it's going to take all of us to do the right thing. But don't care whether we red state, blue state, or whatever. If we start putting and really putting our values of our faith, of taking care of one another, that's what's going to, in my opinion, draw people to want to be a part. So our climate is changing. If you look at the, even from the political spectrum, if you look at that, the dynamics of Wyandotte County with the elected officials that they have now, you have your second Black police chief, you have your first Black judge, your first Black mayor. Even here in Johnson County, we have our first Black judge, the Honorable Rhonda Mason. We advocated for her to get on the bench. A lot of us did. Same way with my representative here in the 49th district, Brad Boyd. So, and I'm so happy to see you in your position. So, we've got some things going. I think it's going to take all of us. And I'm glad that this table that we are putting together, we will have that sacred space where we can talk about the things that affect people who sit in our pews.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we are, it's been 28 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Speeds. I know.
Just got started, Stacy. We just got started.
I know. So we're at 28 minutes, but I always want to leave some space at the end of each to talk about the importance of making sure that we're registered to vote.
Yes.
I've said it 1,000 times, like too many of my ancestors fought, bled, and died just to get me the right to cast a vote. So within our communities, continuously to make sure that we are registered to vote, you can check your registration. Let me drop this link. If you have moved, or if you have gotten married, or if you've done anything that would require you to change your voter registration, ksvotes.org is the place where you can go to update or check your registration. It is an election year every year. Sometimes I think if people are not paying attention or they're not living in the whole policy area, Reverend Love, I don't know if you feel like this. I feel like I eat, breathe, and sleep policy, so I'm thinking about it all the time, and I'm surprised that people don't know. I'm like, but you don't know this bill is making its way through the Kansas legislature? But people may not be aware outside of a presidential election year that elections are actually happening. This is an odd year, 23. So there are municipal elections, city council, school boards, county commissioners, whatever all the little municipal elections are still happening. So please make sure that your registration is up to date and that you know where you go to vote, where your polling places are. It is so important for our community to show up in numbers.
Right.
Politicians.
That's the key. The key is to turn out and actually cast the vote.
And to turn out in numbers and to turn out consistently. Because politicians only pay attention to the people who are paying attention to them. Right. And they know if we're not voting. And if we are not voting in numbers consistently, they will not reach out to us, nor will they listen to us when we say, you should do this. Because then they're like, well, you're not going to vote. Why should I pay attention to you? So please check your registration. Make sure that you are thinking about that even now in the middle of March.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much. You know what? I forgot to ask you.
Yes.
The first question I normally ask everybody, it's a lunch and learn. Have you had lunch yet? What are you having for lunch?
Well, I am a coffee connoisseur, and I have that. But after we say our farewells, I'm going to go downstairs and have some Jack Stack barbecue that is left over from my yesterday's dinner that the wife and I had. So that's what we're going to do.
I mean, I'm not jealous.
But again, before we go, just can I have a parting word to say to the listening audience? Please be active in your local community. Give us a shout out at More Squared, again, more2.org. And then also to Clergy, Our Faith and Democracy. Let us band together and make some good things happen for the state of Kansas. Your congregation and your community needs you. They're waiting on you.
Well, there you go. I will let that be the last word. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. We will see you next week for our next Lunch and Learn, and have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you, Stacey. Mm-hmm.